we talked about this offline in terms of things like boxes that people want to put us in, whether they be by gender or ethnicity or class or, race or religion. And
Right.
that, you know, this is not exactly the most typical story, right? Because not everyone, regardless of class or ethnicity, has a parent that's involved with their life. Not
Right.
everyone has a parent that can help teach them about their emotions, especially young males, right? Like that's a whole thing that was almost like, oh, boys will be boys. Like it's a newer thing to kind of lean into. We're all human beings and we need to kind of understand how to regulate ourselves to show up and be the best way to deal with adversity, to unlock our super potential, all of
Right.
that. But also, you talked about not having the father there. And it's obviously noticeable in life, in storybooks and movies and everywhere you see about dads, and yours isn't there. But mom isn't disparaging him, which says a lot about her character and her nature. But it's also understandable. There's still a hole. And
Right.
what does it
For
mean, and how
sure.
are you supposed to feel about yourself and the way you operate in the world as a man and potentially a father and that kind of stuff? So there's a lot of layers there. I just want to say thank you for sharing all that. We can't unpack it all, but
Right.
I think I think it's really interesting because in some ways people will be like, "Oh, I had that too," and other people will be like, "Oh, I did not have that." And it just shows you that, you're taking the best of all the bits and amplifying.
Right.
But in spite of all that, there have been times where you weren't feeling maybe as confident or as hopeful in your process of getting this company off the ground. So I was wondering, if it's not too difficult, if we could talk a little bit about some of that, because I think unfortunately, for better or for worse, with the way the news cycle goes, people remember sometimes the tragedy as much as the triumph. And it's important to show that you don't really get one without the other.
No, man, I know that very well. Like my first company is called Wear Brands, and we did such amazing things, such amazing things, and I'm always grateful for that time and the 7 years of growing a company and building it from scratch. My first company, that company was built on the principle of my grandmother, and I think that's why I had so much connection to it, and that's why I think it hurt so much. And I don't think people realize how much it really hurt me. Like it, I know we talk about, splitting and a business partner. That's fine. Like that's just what is going to happen. We had different views. We have different understandings of how to run business, and that's fine. But I think what really hurt me is the fact that I gave everything to something that was for someone, and that hurt me. And I kind of fast forward. I was very upset with God. Point blank. Period. Like I didn't understand. I was very confused, very confused on why this is happening. Right?
Let
Why,
let me interrupt you. I'm sorry, just one
right.
second, sweetie. I want to explain what we're talking about just a
Okay.
little bit, in
So yeah,
terms of what was the thing, because I think that part we might not have made clear. Sorry
no, for
about that.
sure. So Wearbrand was a luxury fedora hat company that we started in 2016. We were in Nordstrom's, Neiman Marcus. We did over 7 figures in sales over 7 years. I had a business partner. We did a lot of amazing things. For the first 3 years, we grinded out, we hustled, we understood the business, understand how to create a hat, understand how to scale a business. Myself, I went full time in year 3 or 4, year 3. Um, and I quit my job and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this." So around 2000, I think 18 to I was full time. Like I really put everything into it. And we scaled up every year. Every year we was doubling our numbers every year. So 2023 was our biggest year. We did around $400,000, but that was the year with everything went to went to craziness, and from there, I just understood that, and I look back at man, and I fought myself as well because I wasn't as vocal as I should have been in the beginning, right? And by me, I'm learning business as well. I'm learning how to have these uh, conflict conversations and uncomfortable conversations around equity and what's going to happen. Like, are we going to go full time? Like, what happens when we do 6 figures? Like, all these conversations that you should have in the beginning, I didn't have those conversations because I was uh, aligning to thinking that that person understood where we were going. Right. And it's assuming that that person understood where we were going. And that's where I messed up myself. And I'll take ownership in that because I expected that when we hit these numbers, that this is what we was going to do. This was the trajectory, right? Because I'm seeing other companies and breed up on other companies, and once they hit that pill, they start paying themselves. That's when you leap. And I leave before that. I wouldn't get paid. I lost my car. Like I lost a lot of things, man. That just I was willing to sacrifice. I was willing to sacrifice everything because I saw it. Like, but it was there. It was not like I was seeing an invisible brand. Like we were doing amazing things. Like we hit our first six figures like in 2018, 2019. You know what I mean? So like I saw it then, right? Um, so from there, like we a lot of things happened in 2023, and it had me very confused with God and not understanding like what was next for me. Like, am I supposed to fight for this or am I supposed to give it up? Now I'm not fighting for it, and the person I'm fighting with is not understanding. So now it's just being messy. You know what I mean? And that's just not a messy person, And I had to take a step back and cry and connect with my wife and my mother and my family to understand what I'm going to do. And mind me, at this time period, I'm preparing. I'm preparing to propose at this time early in the year. So I'm like, yo, like what? I'm about to have no company. So what I'm going to do? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, I would love to know about. So you had a pretty strong foundation, a lot of skills in emotional regulation. That said, we're talking about the business, but we're also talking about a really deep relationship with a business partner that's having tension and conflict and animosity and all of that and regret and what have you. Financially, it went from feeling comfortable to feeling scarcity at a time when, if you're going to propose, even though, I mean, obviously she said yes and you're married, so that's a good end of story. But meaning, you want to seem like you're on solid footing, especially
right,
if we're talking about heteronormative, like, relationships,
right,
maybe a little old fashioned in that way, but there are those tropes around, well, you're going to ask her to marry you. Do you have a job? Do you have an income? Are you going to
yes,
be able to help provide, if not provide? Obviously, a lot more partnership focused financial relationships these days,
right.
but again, not with judgment, just putting out some
No,
cliches there to say, did it make you feel, or did you wrestle with any kinds of feelings about your own sort of self-worth and value and potential, because basically the world kind of was crashing down at a time, and even though you had a lot of tools to help you be resilient, I could only imagine there was maybe some cracks in the armor at that time.
no, for sure. There was a little bit there. There definitely was some insecurities for sure, right? Because you work so hard to create something where you get it to the peak or about it's on the peak, so it's like it's about to be on the cycle. It's about to move. It's already moving, so now it's about to be moving by itself. You know what I mean? So for me, it was insecure. I was asking God for so much strength and wisdom and whatever He could give me because I was confused. But what I will say this: even during that time period of confusion of the business, even from a financial opportunity, like He gave me something to keep me focused, right? So I had the opportunity to be a brand ambassador for Patron during that time period, um, which was pretty cool. It allowed me to focus on getting back, like making money, right? But also getting back to my creative juices as well. You know what I mean? And what I realized is that when I asked for stuff came at the right time. It may not have been what I wanted, but it was something that helped my resume, helped me connect with people, the right people within the right industry. You know what I mean? But it's a little insecure for sure because for me, it's like I was still raised in the traditional thought process, right? The man is the one that's providing and things of that nature, right? And that was the whole purpose of Brain Love. I mean, not Brain Love now, but where Brims is like, okay, we here, like let's run it up. We about to be making millions of dollars, so there's nothing we can do now. You know what I mean? And then I remember having that. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I remember having a conversation with my business partner. It went horrible, horrible, it went horrible. And I remember going back home and just breaking down to my wife, well, my fiance at that was it fiance at that time, and well, girlfriend at the time. Sorry, girlfriend. Uh, and I'm just so confused. I'm just like, why is this happening? You know what I mean? Like, why is this happening? And she was just there to support and be there, and which I always super grateful. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to. I'm sure it's hard for someone that works in corporate to date an entrepreneur because it's so up and down. You know what I mean? And
Right, and it's so unscripted, like you said. I think that's something I wanted to pull out, and again, when these things are taken out of context, they sound kind of like Hallmark cliché saccharine stuff, So, I beg forgiveness of you and anyone listening around, our ability to articulate these really complex ideas.
Right,
But something you said I wanted to just pull out, which was it wasn't exactly how I wanted it, but it was what I needed, and
right,
that kind of thing around one of the biggest things, and I struggle with it now, and then I say it, so not to be a hypocrite, but meaning I struggle with it, but I know it is what I want to believe, and I say it to my children, friends, colleagues, and that kind of thing when people are like, "How do you stay hopeful when
right,
the future is uncharted? How do you believe that things will work out and the bills will get paid when there's no guarantee right now that that's going to happen?"
right,
And whether you believe in Buddha, Allah, your agnostic, Jesus, whatever you want to call your God, the universe, respectfully saying something bigger than you putting one foot in front of the other is a part of it, but that it's more about just holding on to the potential possibility
right,
of the next thing, or that things will be as they come, and that what it looks like and how it feels might not be what you thought,
right,
but if you're open to the positive, that positive can come in. And
right,
that's the biggest, corniest first step that is so hard to get that switch to flip sometimes for people, right? Because also you're like, well, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to be lazy. I want to make the right moves. Which moves do I make? And it's this weird, like, how much do you plan and how much do you just lean in to let things kind of come to you, and then you take action. So I just think
yeah,
that's interesting that you said that. You're like, "And then I was an ambassador for Patron." That wasn't really what I was, it's
yeah,
great
for
at
real,
Patron, but it also made you feel
right,
like, well, they don't ask you to be an ambassador, and Patron is a globally recognized brand
right,
unless they respect you. So
right,
that probably helped you feel good. Like, I have something to say, I show up, people care what I say and do.
right,
You know what I mean? Like all those things that help your psyche when you're feeling kind of low or down or less than, or I messed up with my business partner and they messed up with me and we're not earning and now we got to do a wedding and how am I going to do that?
right.
So I think that's really important, that the way it happened wasn't even exactly that you sort of said, I'm going to go get this brand ambassadorship.